When most people see an obstacle, they come up to that hurdle and they say, man, it's going to take a lot of energy and effort to jump over this thing. I'm going to turn around and go back the other way. I'm going to go back to the job, the comfortable job that I had, because they made sure my lights were on. I got a check every 2 weeks. I got a check every month. They made sure I had a 401k. They made sure I had health care. So I'm going to go back there where it's comfortable. Obstacles aren't comfortable. But so here's the thing, what I like. When I see an obstacle, I love it because that means 9 out of 10 people going to turn around and run the other way. So now I'm on an island by myself. Here, let me give you an example.
Welcome to the NEXCUE Mindset. I'm Stephen Garner, the Resilient Life Expert. And today I have the privilege and the blessing to host my friend, Eric Lusain. He is a purpose-driven serial entrepreneur, fashion creator, real estate investor, and creator and founder of many awesome things. And you have to check out his fashion line. He is the CEO of W.E. Lusain Funeral, Home, and Crematory, serving families with dignity, transparency, and compassion across Ohio, Kentucky, and Alabama. And I have to say, Eric's entrepreneurial experience is just awesome. His journey includes a variety of entrepreneurial ventures, like the vegetarian restaurant I had to mention, Manna, Eric. I mean, it was one of a kind. In Cincinnati, it was famous for that chicken tofu salad, which I love so much, man. I wish you know what, you need to package that and sell it in grocery retail outlets and to other restaurants. It was unmatched. It was a multi-purpose facility where you had lecturers, experts throughout the city who would come in and teach health and wellness principles. I remember everything. Beyond business, Eric is a committed community leader who has helped lead a GED program. Now I'm taking you back in one of the most dangerous places, they said, in Cincinnati. And yet we penetrated that area and just shared the love of Christ and educated our brothers and sisters. Developed youth-focused online Bible devotionals. Man, you got to bring those back too. And supported numerous youth and missionary initiatives. A Fisk University graduate and fourth generation tailor, Eric also launched the W.E. Lusain apparel brand, creating premium HBCU-inspired collegiate knits handmade in Birmingham, Alabama. You're putting Birmingham on the map. His work blends legacy, culture, and craftsmanship, reflecting a lifelong commitment to service, creativity, and purpose-centered leadership. And the most important part, Eric, is, man, you're my friend. You have helped me in so many ways. The list is too long to mention here, but I'm just happy to have you, man. Thank you so much. And today what we want to do is get into the mind of W.E. Lusain and your creativity and resilience and learn what it takes to live a resilient and meaningful life. Thank you so much, Eric, man. Thanks for joining me.
Man, I appreciate it. I appreciate the opening. That's a heck of a intro. So I forgot a lot of that stuff. So this will be good. This is a memory. This is a walk down memory lane.
Well, you know, man, I tell you, the thing that is so impressive is how you take nothing and turn it into something great. And a lot of our peers, they talk about that a lot. They say, man, you know, if you give it to Eric, he will turn it into a profitable and successful business. So your vision is fantastic. But you know, I want to know, like, just from a practical standpoint, uh, you know, what led you to be an entrepreneur? Did you always have aspirations?
It
Were you
is. It is.
influenced by someone, or just walk me down that journey?
It's clearly entrepreneurship. I'm beginning to think that it's in your DNA or not. It's clearly in my DNA because taking risks, a lot of people they just aren't geared for that. And I don't have a problem taking risks. And most of the time when I talk to people who ask me questions like, how can I start my own funeral home? How can I start my own clothing brand? What do I have to do? And the key thing that I find out is that they aren't risk takers. So I don't know what inspired me or what's in me. I think what it is God has a way of doing something where he'll do it to where you can't take credit for it. And because I cannot think of one, single thing that teaches a person how to take risks. Either you're going to be able to do it or not. And so that's the thing. And then so when I look at, you brought up, still what jumps off that page is fourth generation Taylor. Every time I see that, I looked at that and I'm like, am I a fourth generation Taylor? And I'm like, yeah. And then I think about, I think about my great grandfather, I think about my grandfather, I think about my mom and dad. And I'm like, it literally must be a genetic thing, because these guys was doing it all the way back in 1919 when my parents, my grandmother, my mom and aunts would tell me the story of how my great grandfather had a tailoring shop, and they showed me all the paperwork and the receipts and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, these guys were legitimately doing this in racist, downtown Birmingham in 1919. So yeah,
Wow.
it's definitely something in the genes for sure.
Wow. So it's in the genes, but is starting a funeral home in the genes? I mean, how did that come into being, man? Because
Um,
hey, look, I remember that time we were going to the men's retreat in Gambier, Ohio, Kenya College. And I asked you to pick me up, and you were driving that Prius. And yeah, look, you had you said first I gotta drop off a casket. I said, okay, you dropping off the casket? Like, then you hire like UPS or FedEx? You said, no, and here's what got me. You drove to Detroit. Do you remember that? See, I remember that. And
Man,
you came and picked me up, Eric,
yeah.
and you had flip-flops. And I said, man, what is this, man?
Um, I mean, we're in the middle of the podcast. I guess I got to give some background to that. But long story short, what Steve is talking about is um, at one point in my trajectory, I had a casket company. And there's obviously some steps that lead up to that. But when I started this casket company, part of the superpowers of the business was my ability to deliver a casket within a 250-mile radius for less than $20. And people said, well, why did you use a Prius? You could have rented a van. You could have, and eventually I had a van. I got a whole fleet of vehicles eventually. But starting out, my whole point was, how can I save families the most money and get this casket from A to B for as little as possible? Because when I did my research, most of the cost in that casket was delivering it.
Hmm.
And when I found out I could fit this thing in a Prius and deliver it without a scratch, get it there on time for less than $20, I had superpowers. Nobody could compete with that. So the whole thing was, Costco and Walmart at the time, they were selling caskets. However, I saw what they couldn't do well. They couldn't guarantee that it would get to be delivered in time. And ironically, when it arrived to the funeral home, because the funeral home certainly didn't want to lose that casket sale, some kind of way that casket had a dent or a scratch on it. So the challenge was, how can I get that thing delivered within 24 hours without a dent or a scratch at a certain price? And so that's how that came about. But you brought that up because, of course, eventually, to answer your question, I saw where the market was going. I saw how funeral homes were responding to receiving third-party caskets because, of course, a lot of your listeners may not have the background, but they put all their profit in that casket. So they would literally mark a casket up 6 times. And when I took that casket sale
Wow.
from them and offered that casket to a customer at a fraction of the cost of what the funeral home would charge, eventually the market adjusted as I kind of projected it would. And that's when I figured out, okay, I had better, get into the funeral business myself if I wanted to continue helping families save money on funeral expenses.
So you get into the funeral business. Okay, so you opened a casket store. People should know that. You opened a casket store. I remember you had the
Right.
casket store and the
Yeah.
showfront downtown.
Yep.
And and
Yep.
and and then you get into the funeral business and you were still selling caskets, and then you started offering funeral services, but it was in partnership with another funeral home, correct?
No, actually, I hired a funeral director and opened my own funeral home.
Okay.
So here it is again. A lot of people are not built for taking risks, and that's no offense to them. Even my wife, when they tried to get her to become a manager at the IRS, she's like, no, you're not going to pay me more money, but you're going to give me all of this responsibility, and that's not responsibility I want to take. So I get it. And so, but I did partner up with the guy. I hired him, used his license to open a funeral
Okay, so
home.
that's why you had it was Grun, right?
Uh-huh. That's why it was under a totally different name,
Okay,
because
okay.
legally in the state of Ohio, it had to be named, it had to be named after the licensed funeral director. So
Right.
that's why it was named. And a lot of people, they thought it was his funeral home, which was fine. I didn't care. But and I wanted him to partner up with me so he could take some responsibility and ownership. It would have been a much better thing. But again, everyone is not built for that risk. I was at a stage in my life where I could afford to roll the dice and make some mistakes. Um, but it all worked out in the end.
So what are some of the challenges that you faced during that process? I mean, I can imagine it wasn't smooth.
No, it's not smooth. In the funeral business, there's a lot of regulation. Um, there's a lot of red tape, and eventually I got licensed um, to minimize my liability. I remember meeting a funeral home owner in Cincinnati, and he said, I treat every family when they walk through the door as if they're going to sue me. And I laughed at him, and I thought he was, kind of crazy to think that way and didn't have trust in people, but he wasn't lying. The liability, the level of liability insurance that we have to carry is amazing, and he was right. So everything has to be done according to the law. I scare my employees all the time. If you guys don't follow the law, they're not going to come pick you up and take you to jail. They're coming to get W.E. Lusain for something you did. So
Right.
we follow all the laws. We cross all the T's. We dot every I to make sure that everything is done at a certain standard and level of dignity.
At the same time, you were investing in real estate because you helped me buy one of my first investment properties. You were dealing with that and juggling a lot of the business responsibilities. I mean, how did you
Well,
achieve that? Because I remember when you were developing the real estate, you even had your dad as a laborer. He shared with me when he
yeah, yeah.
he shared with me he came. He was like, man, you were working him like a Hebrew slave.
The
You
funny thing is, so commercial real estate development actually was the foundation of all of this. The real estate company preceded, well, really, honestly, the vegetarian restaurant preceded the real estate. But each and every business venture led to the next one. So when I left Procter and Gamble, I started the vegetarian deli, and you know, and in every business, you're trying to find out how to make it profitable. And I'll be honest, I had a hard time figuring out how to make that restaurant profitable. I did not make the restaurant profitable until I, found out that catering was the most profitable piece of it. So the restaurant, was proceeded by a catering business. That catering business became profitable, and the profitability of the catering business allowed me to get city loans and state loans to buy commercial property in downtown Cincinnati. That's how I became a commercial real estate developer. But even before all of that, my family has always dabbled in residential real estate. So when anybody says, hey, how do I start my own company? How do I start my own business? I always tell them, you got to own some real estate because you need equity. You need real estate. You need something you can hawk. If you think about when you think about the game Monopoly, Monopoly is built on you owning property. You got to be able to leverage some property because the bank is not going to say, hey, Steve, here's 100 grand and I'm just going to trust you to pay it back. If you can't pay it back, they want to take something. Okay. And that car is a depreciating asset. That thing ain't worth nothing. The only thing that they got confidence in is some real estate because they know that it's going to appreciate on a worst case between 10 and 15% a year. So they want to know how much equity you got. So real estate really is the basis, in my opinion, for any business. When I studied McDonald's, the whole McDonald's philosophy, you're not making any profit off of a $2 burger. You're not making, back in our days when we were in high school, you could get a Big Mac for $1. There ain't no profit in a dollar Big Mac, in a 32-ounce dollar Coke. There's no profit in that. Their profit was in owning the real estate. That McDonald's real estate, when you go back and look at the portfolios, it was crazy. Things have changed now, but it's real estate that really has the value. So that's how all of this started. But to answer your question, back to how I was able to develop the property, what I did was I took that restaurant and stuck it into one of the storefronts, and it became a entity that I could show the bank that here, instead of me paying rent over here, if I was paying $1,500 in rent over here, they looked at that and said, okay, he's got a business that has consistently paid rent over here, $1,500. Now he's going to take it and stick it in the commercial property that we're going to loan him money for. So we know he has a basis to pay, at least 50% of the mortgage, if not more. So that's how the businesses helped me amass commercial real estate. And, eventually at the time, this was right before 2008 and the housing bubble burst. We were able to get these loans, man, and we were buying property in downtown, right on Main Street in Cincinnati. Yeah. We were able to buy 4 properties down there in the heart of the business district. And they were shells and we got them cheap. They were undeveloped. It was just an opportunity. It was an amazing opportunity that, just I happened to be in the right place at the right time.
So this sounds beautiful, man. What were some of the hardest struggles you had to face in this process?
One that sticks out, like I said, all of this was 2006, 2007. Then the housing bubble burst. And I had this plan that I was going to carve up these buildings and sell them as condos. And the housing bubble burst. You couldn't sell nothing.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I was like, man, I looked at my parents, and my parents, they co-signed everything with me. They had my back, and that was the thing. That's why I took all the risks. I knew my parents had my back. Mm. I knew if something goes wrong, I could go live in the basement of my parents. That was my thing. If something went wrong, I would go live in my parents' basement with my wife and kids. We'd go live in the basement. I would go get a job at Starbucks and have health care. That was how I rolled the dice. Let me do it now. But at any rate, the housing bubble burst. And instead of carving the buildings up, I just rented them as apartments. Nobody could buy and sell anyway. So my vacancy rate was low. I rented these things and I began to create a model where I could profit off of the rent. Lo and behold, 15 years later, the property appreciated like crazy.
And like crazy. I remember, man, my property sold for so much down there. The day I listed it, I had offers that within hours.
Yes, the property just tripled and quadrupled in value. And then I looked at what I owed on them. I didn't even pay that principal and interest. My tenants did it. So that's the concept of leveraging your ability to buy real estate, leveraging your credit. My tenants paid all the principal and interest. So not only did I have the tax write-offs, of all that interest that my tenants paid. They paid for the principal. So now, after 15 years, I got these properties that I own free and clear. Now I can carve them up and chop them up and sell them off as hotels or condos like on Monopoly. That's how the concept is. So yeah, that was a challenge, and that's how I got over it, to answer your question.
What would you say to an entrepreneur or anybody who's going through something similar or any challenge? Like, what type of mindset do they need to have to bounce back from a setback, to focus on the path forward? Because you have a very creative mind and when it comes to solving problems. What would you say? This is what it takes when you hit a wall or an obstacle per se. What would you say it takes to overcome that?
Okay, number one, I mean, we talked about the ability to take risks.
Yes, sir.
So number one, we know you got to have that.
Yes.
So that's sitting over here. We know you got to have that.
You got to take risks.
You got to be able to take risks. Number two, the biggest problem that I've seen is people test and test. They try it. They dabble. They talk about it, but they don't implement it. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for a test market. I believe in test markets. You know, I'll spend money on test markets, but there comes to a point where you've tested it enough and you need to get your butt out there and try it.
You just got to do it.
You got to do it. So my model is, and this isn't really quantitative.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a qualitative model in my head where I say, okay, Eric, you've got 80% of the data. It's time to go to market. And it's different because folks like Bezos and Musk, they got so much money, they'll launch at 60%.
Right.
And they'll launch at 60%, knowing they don't know 40%. They say, I've got enough money to where I'll fix it on the back end and I'll whittle it down and I'll solve the problem. I got enough knowledge and history to know that it'll work. I'm gonna launch with 60% of the data and we'll be fine. And they'll be fine because they got the money to spend.
They got the cash. They got cash.
Like us, who may not have
who don't have the cash, we're like,
right. Because the whole reason that I see people not going to market is because they don't have a lot of money, which I get it. Because here's the third thing that I hadn't gotten to yet. I know some people who they're waiting on that angel investor. They're waiting to go on Shark Tank. They're waiting for somebody to give them some money. And that just hasn't worked for me. I honestly don't know how to partner up with a venture capitalist. I've never seen that model. I'm not saying it don't work. I'm sure it works.
Yeah, yes.
But the only thing that I know to work is make $5, then take that $5 and reinvest it. Okay, now I got $10. Take that $10. First off, I'm going to live a modest lifestyle. This is we were living a very modest lifestyle.
Yeah, you were. I remember, man. You guys were very.
I lived in a three family. I lived in a three family so that two of the apartments could pay the mortgage and Keisha and I could live for free. So we were living modestly, and then I could afford to rent out all three of the apartments so I could go out and buy a house and know that my mortgage is paid for. Both mortgages are paid for because of the rental property. So we lived modestly for 10 to 15 years where it took 15 years for me to get my salary back from Procter & Gamble. That's how modestly we live. But my point in going down that path and explaining that is what I see people doing is they're waiting for somebody to give them some money. And I'm like, you could have started the business. These 10 years that you waited, you could have been, you could have started it and reinvested the little bit of money that you made, working a part-time job to pay for it and just self-invested. We're self-made. I mean, yeah, my parents co-signed it. Don't get me wrong. The difference between me and some people is that I got great parents. And I try to encourage some people, I'm sorry you don't have parents as good as mine. That's the difference between us. But at the end of the day, here are the cards we're dealt. I'm not going to, sit up and make, excuses that I got better parents. So look at the cards. It's not Bezos and Musk's fault that they sitting on $1 billion when they start a new startup. It's not their fault that he sold PayPal and made a couple billion. It's not his fault. I mean, it is what it is. But these are the cards. So stop testing this thing Get out there and try it. Stop waiting for some angel investor to drop money in your lap. You got to try it.
Execute. So you say you just execute with what you have, continue to
Yeah.
grow, be modest.
They may think that they're executing on a small scale and it's not good enough. That's the other problem. I got young people asking me, how do I own my own funeral home? Well, before you can own your own funeral home, do you own your own house first? Have you ever applied for a mortgage? No, I'm still living in an apartment. So you mean to tell me you want to own your own funeral home, but you've never applied for a mortgage to own your own house? You've paid all this rent for all these years and you don't own a single property? You're not ready to own a funeral home.
Mm-hmm.
Before you can run, you got to walk. Before you walk, you got to crawl. So the thing, you're looking at 50-year-old Eric. 21-year-old Eric wasn't balling out of control like I am now. Now, yeah, but I wasn't back then.
Right.
You're looking at 25 years of grinding.
Right.
So the generation now, they're just sticking junk in a microwave, and this stuff takes time. We're slow baking.
Right.
Okay?
Slow baking.
We're slow baking here.
So when challenges come and you just continue to stay the course, you focus on the end result, and you execute, you test at a small scale, but you execute. You don't do anything to jeopardize your investment. You say you stay within your means. You stay
Correct.
focused.
Yes.
You make sure that you take the resources you have and you put it back into your business and you help it to grow over a period. It may take a long time, but obstacles, it sounds like they don't stop you. They actually motivate you to keep going forward. It sounds like that. I mean, I've never heard you say, man, I'm going to quit, or I've seen you go through some stuff. I have seen you. And I always wondered, like, that's why I'm asking you the question. I'm like, what is driving this dude?
Obstacles are the path.
Obstacles are the path. That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear.
Obstacles are the path.
Now
I'm just watching a guy. I wish I knew his name because I'm quoting him right now. I don't know his name. But obstacles are the path. He says, I eat obstacles for breakfast.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is what I want to hear.
Yeah. You don't run from obstacles. The thing is, when you see an obstacle, because see, this is the nature of people. When most people see an obstacle, they come up to that hurdle and they say, man, it's going to take a lot of energy and effort to jump over this thing. I'm going to turn around and go back the other way. I'm going to go back to the comfortable job that I had, because they made sure my lights were on. I got a check every 2 weeks. I got a check every month. They made sure I had a 401k. They made sure I had health care. So I'm going to go back there where it's comfortable. Obstacles aren't comfortable. But so here's the thing, what I like. When I see an obstacle, I love it, because that means 9 out of 10 people are going to turn around and run the other way. So now I'm on an island by myself. Here, let me give you an example.
That's a good perspective.
In my sweater business, we've got this obstacle of scaling. Okay, this is one of the sweaters I got on. And I design them, I have them mass produced, and I store them in a warehouse. And then we apply different designs on them. We hand sew these designs in Birmingham, Alabama, in real time, and getting it to the customer in 10 days. And there's only one other company that does this, and it takes them 6 to 9 months to do what we do. So I'm able to do in 6 to 9 months what takes them 6 to 9 months, it takes me 10 days. And even some of my customers even complain about that. So I have to educate them on that whole process. But my point is, that obstacle has placed me in a category by myself. And now I finally have, because I've always wanted this, a premium national brand where I sell sweaters across the country. So when you look at obstacles like that, and then my staff is looking at this like, this is crazy. You mean to tell me we're the only people that do this? I'm like, yeah. Only other people that do this are in China. There's a reason why a lot of American manufacturing jobs are overseas. We're doing this in Birmingham, Alabama, and I'm paying Birmingham dollars for you to make this sweater versus Chinese dollars.
Now, do you put on your website American made? I didn't see it.
It's on every label. I mean, I got it.
Okay, I got you. Okay,
this sweater is produced in China, but it's assembled in Birmingham, Alabama. I don't even
Got you,
say
got you, got you.
American made. It's Birmingham made. So yeah, Birmingham assembled. So yeah, these obstacles, man, typically, normally when I see an obstacle, if you can find a solution to that obstacle, you might be onto something.
Right.
Because see, that obstacle, go back to the casket business. The obstacle for Walmart and Costco was they couldn't deliver the casket undamaged. I mean, side note, these funeral homeowners would receive the box, open it, and scratch it. No one saw them open the box. The family wasn't there. But anyway, we won't go into all of that.
Oh,
My
that's
point is
crazy. That's
the
crazy.
caskets were surprisingly arriving damaged. So that was an obstacle. So what I would do is I'd hop in my Prius, later on my van or delivery van. It's me delivering it. It's my staff person delivered. I'm on the phone. Hey, I'm 20 minutes out. Meet me at the funeral home. We're gonna unbox this together.
Mm.
Oh, thank you, Eric. You just saved me $4,000. You just saved me $3,000. Meanwhile, I'm making literally 100% profit because the funeral homes were greedy, making 600% profit.
Wow.
So the point is that obstacle created the business model because fewer people could figure out how to do it. So when you see an obstacle, that's the pathway.
Interesting. Interesting. So how
That
do
guy
you
said, I eat obstacles for breakfast. I love it. I love it.
so do you focus on what you can create from that obstacle? Do you put energy into that? Do you mind map it? I mean, what do you do? Do you journal? Do you self-talk? Do you get a group of
It's
people like
self-taught because
it's
I've got a
self-talk? Okay.
biology degree. Yeah, it's definitely self-taught. My degree's in biology, but admittedly, I learned a lot from Procter and Gamble. When I was at Procter and Gamble, I started out in R&D, and I was on a project. I won't name it, but I was on a project where I literally saw Procter incept from idea and take it all the way to market. So I was there. I had a front row seat to watching all of that, watching them test market, watching them go into little cities in the Midwest and go behind, two-way mirrors and listen to customers talk about things.
Do focus
So
groups and
yeah, all of that. Take marketing plans and test a marketing plan and how this marketing plan is effective on how you place the product at this eye level on the shelf versus this eye level on the shelf. On all of these things, you absorb it. It's almost like when you're watching the Matrix and you see the green letters and numbers coming down, and I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. And when you begin to be wired that way,
yeah.
that obstacle, when you see first off, let me back up. Successful entrepreneurs solve customers' problems. Now let's digest that. I'm going to repeat it. Successful entrepreneurs solve their customers' problems. When you see a problem, solve it. If you solve that problem, there's money involved. You can reapply other ideas, you can reapply other concepts, but the whole point is if you solving a problem, you're gonna make some money. And that problem, 9 times out of 10, it's an obstacle. Obstacles make you money. They shouldn't scare you away.
So what do you do to keep yourself positive? Like, what do you do to keep yourself motivated? You have obstacles, you see it as an opportunity. What do you feed yourself to say they even see that way? Because most people see the world, the glass is half empty, right? They see
Yeah,
what
yeah.
do you do? What do you do? What do you do? You say, this is what
I do
I
have a
listen to.
positive mindset.
Mhm.
No, you know what? Let me back up. Because people always say, Eric, you're so negative. No, it's not that I'm negative. I'm really an optimist. But, you and I have talked. I've later defined it as being a realist. And a realist with a positive bent, if you will. Because I look at things from a worst case scenario, but I do have this belief that I can make it work. And yes, it's my faith, but when you're hungry, when you want to succeed, when you got a reason to succeed and do something, I mean, if your reason is pure, then God will make a way. Um, one thing I've recently learned, and I'll put it like this, and I'm not into this oh, if you manifest it, it'll happen. I'm going to rephrase it though. If you tell your mind that this is possible, then it will be.
Hmm.
And that isn't that manifestation talk. That is literally telling yourself that this is going to work out. You have to positively delude yourself into believing that you can get over this obstacle. Because if you tell yourself, oh man, I can never do that, then you won't. You have to believe you can do it. And when you believe you can do it, you'll keep finding that way to do it and make it happen.
Because you see it no other way.
It says, I can't comprehend any other way. I can't think of it turning out any other way. This is the only way it will turn out. Or it might be, this is my experience. I'm going to start this test market here. I don't know where I'm going to end up. I just know I'm going to end up into something positive. So that's really the thing. Remember how I got here. You're talking all the way from driving caskets around the Midwest to now selling sweaters. And I can show you every step of the way on how each and every business led to the next one. There's businesses in there that we haven't even brought up on this podcast, but I can tell you each one, and I can show you how each one led to the next one. One quick example, the commercial real estate. My tenant wasn't paying his rent. The rent on that storefront was $1,800 a month. He wasn't paying his rent. I kicked him out 3 days. I gave him time and time again to pay his rent. He wouldn't pay his rent. I had a 3-day remedy, kicked him out. I said, if I just sold 4 caskets a month, I could cover the rent. I don't even need to make any money off of it. Just let me sell 4 caskets. Then all of a sudden, wait a minute. You mean to tell me I'm selling a casket a day? So now I'm selling 30 caskets a month? I didn't even know that that was possible. So all the way from, remember, the vegetarian deli allowed me to get the loan to get the commercial property that I developed and put other storefronts in, that each one led to the next one. So the thing is you don't even know where you're going because you're thinking, you got to think positive and you don't even see it, but you just got to know that it's there and that it's positive. You don't know where it is, but you're going somewhere.
What's your philosophy on people who are negative? Like what do you say? Because there's always someone around you who they'll see a cloud on a sunny day.
Unfortunately, you got to get away from those people. So, you pray for them, you compartmentalize them, and some of them are family members. You can't get away from them, but you got to put them in a compartment, pray for them, and take care of them. The thing, what I'm trying to say is, I'm not saying don't care for them and leave them behind, or don't hang out with, but you got to compartmentalize that thinking and make sure you don't take that thinking on to yourself. Because the thought is this: if you show me the 5 people that you hang around with, you're going to be the average of those 5. There's no way for you to reach a level 5 levels above you if you don't hang out with anyone who's 5 levels above you. You got to hang out with that person. So, and I'm not saying that, again, we're Christians. You got to compartmentalize the negative naysayers. Okay. You can help bring them up, but you got to be careful not to take on their negative energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're not built for it, then maybe you need to just say, hey, we can't hang out no more.
You need to cut them off.
Yeah, because they'll bring you down. I mean, one rotten apple does what?
That's right. It spoils a bunch. Let me ask you a question. We're both black men, right? What do you say to those who are, I mean, I don't want to go political because I'm not a right, left, middle guy. I mean, I'm just, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to do it, right? But someone sent me today, there's so much stuff out there on social media about black men. Uh, what do you say to those black men who focus on, and I'm not dismissing that there are structures out there that may create some obstacles or prohibitions, but what do you say to Black men who are struggling with the idea of making it in today's world? What would be your advice to them? What would be your point of view?
You gotta, yeah, you gotta, I'm thinking about, where we started back in Cincinnati. I don't know if Eric Thomas's thing was break the cycle. I think it
Yeah,
was break the
that's when he
cycle.
came to Cincinnati and we were at,
Yeah.
man, I remember he did that Friday night,
Yeah,
the break the
we were
cycle. Yeah.
working, we were working with Eric, and this guy's blown up, obviously, but it was break the cycle, and I've never forgotten that. Cut with the, I spoken this earlier in the podcast. Cut the excuses. These are the cards we're dealt. We
Right.
got to move on. We have to break the cycle at some point. Now, don't get me wrong. Yeah, some people have had clear advantages, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm trying to learn from those advantages. One thing my mom said, um, Black woman at AT&T who survived every layoff possible, um, retired after 36 years. She was the quietest voice in the room. When she spoke, people listened. But she also said this: when her Caucasian counterparts were talking about financial planning, their stocks and investments, she listened. She never heard it before, but she said she took their stock tips. She took all the stuff, all of these benefits on generations of benefits that they've had. And again, my mother grew up in poor Birmingham, Alabama. Okay, and she got to where she got, but she didn't have to complain or make up excuses at all. I never had this. I didn't go to this school. We received government cheese. They never had government cheese. It wasn't. She didn't make excuses. She just kept listening and learning. So the thing is, at some point, you got to break that cycle. That's what I tell us. So now, yeah, I hate to say it, but no, I don't hate to say it. I'm proud of it. My kids, your kids now have the advantages that those counterparts that my mother listened to had,
Right, right.
because our parents listened to, their advice. She listened to the wisdom that they had. So that's what I would tell them. Get yourself from around the people who bring you down, and put yourself around the people who can float you up.
Do you think a lot of it is self-inflicted?
Some of it's self-inflicted, sure. My dog's barking, ready to go out. Um, one second, Chase.
For the ones who have been dealt the cards that are not great, if there's such a thing, would you say that what they need to do is focus on being more creative, or do you think it's more a byproduct of education? Do they need to get more education, like from a trade school institution, or is it a matter of just taking more risk? I mean, what would you say? And I'm saying this about Black men because I just really want to hit this a little hard.
Well, to us, man, here's what I would say, because we definitely have been dealt different cards.
Hmm.
Okay, let's be clear about that. Um, I don't want to. We don't have the time to go in it on this
Yeah,
podcast,
yeah,
but
yeah, sure, sure, sure.
statistics
I
are
just want,
clear. Yeah,
yeah, I just want just
the numbers are
your point of
clear.
view.
We've definitely been dealt a different set of cards. I mean, I remind my girls, my dad could not drink at the same water fountain as his peers. Not my granddaddy. I mean, of course, my granddad and his dad, but as recent as my father has had to you know could not drink at the same water fountain. So we've clearly been dealt different cards. We definitely, to your point, got to get educated. That's what my mother did. It may not be a formal education. Formal education is good. We need that. Need to take advantage of that. But there are other forms of education too, and that's putting yourself in rooms that with people that have achieved more than you. Okay. Now, we all can do that. Again, hanging out with people who can elevate you and take you higher. Yeah, learning a trade, learning different skills. These are all things. And there are some things that we may not achieve in our generation. I have a goal of mine that I probably won't see in my lifetime, but I'm setting it up for Carly to see it. So in understanding that, I'm not going to sit up here and piss and moan about it. I'm just going to set it up for my daughter, but I'm going to maximize what I'm doing so that I can achieve the most that I can. And so to that young man, to my colleague, to my counterpart, to my brother, I'm going to say, hey, put yourself in rooms that you will be elevated in. Hanging out with folk who ain't going to take me higher, I don't have time for that.
It's just a waste. We're building a legacy. We're playing a
Yes,
long game,
the
and
long game.
we have to think beyond ourselves,
Yes,
and we have to set up opportunities for those who need that in order to transcend their circumstances and
right.
perpetuate the success we created.
Hold on, and let me just say this. I mean, to be clear, you and I, we are where we are because we're on the backs of somebody else.
Yeah, that's true.
Man, my dad, after I graduated from college, he sent me my car title, and I had a job, and it affected me in a certain way. I felt guilty for him paying off my car, and he said, "Man, if you don't stop," he's like, my dad did the same thing for me,
Mm,
and that humbled me. Because
mm,
I didn't even think that granddaddy could do that for my dad. And
mm.
so he just showed me, while we don't have 15 and 16 generations like some people, we need to break the cycle and start it now.
In this
So
generation,
in
in
this
this
generation,
generation, do
that's
what
how
you
that's
can
done.
now.
That's
Yeah, do
right.
what you can now incrementally. Man, listen, I love this is great. I'm so glad you chopped it up with me, man. I'm excited, man, to just share these thoughts. And Eric, man, I appreciate all the things you've done, your family, the stories. I mean, we can go on and on. Um, how can people follow you? That's what I want to say because, man, you have such. I mean, I love the robust following on your social media. Where can people follow you?
The easiest and best place is my Instagram, which is W.E. Lusain. So yeah, on Instagram at W.E. Lusain.
You're the only
Um,
W.E. Lusain on the planet.
the only one. Well, there's my father. You know,
Right, 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 right. But I'm saying,
but yeah, on Instagram, yeah, because we all have the same initials. But W.E. Lusain on Instagram, that's where you can follow me.
and finally, what's your final cue? Like, what's the mindset cue? You say, this is the game changer, or this will set you up. This will help you to get to the next level. What would you say your final cue is today?
Probably the biggest one, and we hit on a bunch of them, but the biggest one, man, stop testing and just go do it. People
Go
love to
do
talk.
it. Just do it.
I'm gonna do this. When I get here, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. When I get this, no, just do it. I don't want to hear that you're gonna do it. Show me you can do it.
Just do it. Just do
Just
it.
do it.
Just
Yeah.
do it. Because you're in the funeral business and you see people going to that grave.
Tomorrow ain't promised.
Tomorrow's not promised. You have today.
Don't
That's
wait.
it. Don't
Don't
wait.
wait.
Man, thank you
Yep.
so much. W.E. Lusain, entrepreneur extraordinaire, as we say, E double, the one and only. Audience, thank you so much for listening today. Take your cues from Eric Lusain and live a great life. Next cue.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening. I'm on a mission to teach the world how to develop a resilient mindset to overcome all their challenges. You might be wondering, why am I bent on accomplishing this feat? Well, it's simple. When I was at my worst and lowest moment, many people poured into my life and helped me to overcome all my challenges. When I asked them what was their motivation, they simply said someone did it for them. And then they asked me to make a promise to do it for someone else. You can help me to fulfill that promise by simply subscribing today and help me to teach the world how to live their best life. I'm Stephen Garner. Take your cues from me and live a great life. Next cue. Let's go, baby.